that, obviously, 3% is just on cards and mobile. Does that then dictate kind of the partnerships that we've seen KCB make in the past? I mean, you've done in banking, now you've even gone bigger and better with the partnership with Safaricom in terms of the KCB and Pesa account. Just looking at that, is that where you try, the way banks now are trying to see where they can get more involved and actually have higher transactions, movements?
I think partnerships is definitely the direction to go. Well, I think yesterday's fiercest of rivals are likely going to be tomorrow's greatest of partners. And it's a question of then how do we come together for the good of that particular customer? Yeah. How do we come together and create value for that particular customer as opposed to just purely competing against each other? And if you look at what happened between ourselves and the Safaricom on the KCB M-Pesa, it was the same conversation. That then there's a whole base that has been transacting in this format. How do we then create value to how it is that they are transacting and create an account that makes it possible for them to actually open that account without even coming to the bank at all? And I think the conversation of convenience is one that will be taking center stage even in the days to come. And it's just been interesting just to see the response of the last few days that account has actually been operational. And still back to James's point in terms of then that whole convenience aspect, that fact that then today I can actually open an account without even seeing the inside of a bank. I can actually transact without even seeing the inside of a bank. I'm actually getting credit without even needing to come to a bank. And it is actually what he's talking about then, the transactions that are not, I don't need to be present on site for those particular transactions to actually happen. And I think we'll be seeing a whole lot more of that particular conversation. We definitely do expect to see a lot of inroads as far as mobile money transfers is concerned. And again, to James, it's a question of choice to the customer. Which of this really, both options are available. Whichever the form factor that you want to drive in, then it is actually available to you. And if you look at it even from a government perspective, again, it is also taking the same direction. And I think what we are seeing is all the pieces coming together towards a huge takeoff from a cashless.
This just brings in that question, because for a very long time people have been perceptive about making card payments because of the risk element. Now we're seeing banks going to a place where you don't even have to see anyone to have an account, to have a loan, to make payments, to withdraw money, to send money. The element of risk, how are banks factoring this in going forward?
If you look at there's a fundamental shift in how we will do trade. And one of the things that I can tell you, Mike, is that how we did trade yesterday is not necessarily how we're going to do it today, and neither is it how we're going to do it tomorrow. If you look at the generation that we're serving today, the Gen Y, bulk of it being even below the age of 35, it's actually a very, very digital age. And the question, and I think the big question for us has been, what are the necessary integrations that we need to do to make it possible for us to serve you without you even having to come to where we are? If you look at today as we open an account, it does not mean that then the fact that we didn't see you, we do not know you. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, the president was launching the IPRS, which is basically one center of information. In fact, they call it a one source of truth as far as your data is concerned. And we are seeing a lot of secondary data now feeding into the primary data, such as then I don't need to see you to get to know you, because then there are many ways of me getting to know you. If you look at credit, for example, again, you don't need to sit in front of me. I have an integration towards the Credit Reference Bureau that then begins to tell me this is how Michael has performed as far as credit consumption and ability to pay is concerned, and how his discipline also to pay is concerned. Today, Kenyans who have not handled their credit well find themselves listed, and it becomes difficult for us to continue to engage. And therefore, I think in a digital age where technology is available, it is possible for me to achieve the same thing that I was achieving back then, but in a very, very different way. And therefore, then we've seen ourselves then doing the necessary integrations to be able to then get to the same point. And therefore, it's not that we are taking more risk. It's just that we have managed the how to deal with this risk and how to approach it. James actually just talked about the question of EMV last year, which was definitely a big thing. How then do we still also secure the transaction that you are doing and give you the confidence that you are fine? And I think to James's point, we saw a bit of a dip from a card perspective, but then it was also driven by the fact that then the experiences last year, as all of us, and I would say even KCB was migrating into EMV. It was not without its own few hiccups here and there, and of course that did something as far as the experience is concerned. However, what we have also seen is that then with that result, Kenyans are more confident to use their cards even much greater. The advent of prepaid cards that has actually gotten into the market then also means that the risk is not directly to my operational account, but then it's a risk I can now today control, manage, and determine how much exposure I sit with at any point in time. Remember the conversation.